So hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another video on Assetto Corsa Competizione. We're here at Paul Ricard, as you can see, starting from the very back of the grid. After qualifying in second place on the night's race, I had a bit of a glitch coming back to the main menu and needed to reboot the game, which put me back all the way in 30th position, or 29th, something like that. Either way, very tentative through the first lap. As you can see, starting at the back of the grid, it isn't without incident. So just trying to clear a large number of drivers in lap 1. Another comical section of the race, to be quite honest. There's a lot going on, but trying to finish this race was an epic battle, to be fair, and starting from the back of the grid certainly made it more enjoyable, but yeah, there was a lot going on that night. Anyway, the purpose of the video, on the run up to this week I must have recorded 3 different videos, and I've done absolutely nothing with the footage because I just didn't feel like they were the kind of videos that were going to be worth watching, to be honest. So we're here looking at Paul Ricard because on the night I qualified second, and hopefully I've got some footage that I recorded, because I didn't film myself driving during this event. I just wanted to take part in it. And it was very late on, 11 o'clock at night, and I think I set a 1:53.8 during qualifying, which gave me second place. And then Cozy Learner, a guy that always sets an amazing lap time, he posted a 1:52.8, which is literally a full second quicker. And I just thought, I have got no answer to that whatsoever. I don't know where I'm going wrong on this circuit, but I've got no answer of finding a full second. Anyway, during the race, obviously it was a very different race because I'm starting from the back of the grid. I had a lot of traffic to contend with throughout the first number of laps, and it was a difficult race, to be honest. But I think I finished 6th, but with a track penalty from somebody else a little bit higher up, I ended up finishing 5th. But the main issue was, when I looked back at the timesheets, Cozy Learner was in the 1:53s for literally the whole race, and I was probably in the 1:54s for the entire race. And that's a huge chunk of time over 30 minutes. He's finishing like 20 seconds ahead, which is huge for me. It's hugely disappointing when I know there's a lot of drivers that are slower and they're finishing further and further off the pace, but when you're trying to race competitively, you always want to be racing someone better than you because you know you've got room for improvement, and it's all about personal development racing. I don't care whether you're setting a 2-minute lap here at Paul Ricard, or you're setting a 56-second lap or a 52-second lap. It's always about personal development and pushing yourself to the absolute maximum in every lap. So yeah, I wanted to create this video and understand where things are different for myself and Cozy Learner, and what I might be able to do with my setup, with the way I'm approaching the lap, to find those extra seconds or extra tenths. So I did manage to take a recording of some of the footage, so I'm just going to come out of this section that we're watching here. I'm going to come on board with my laps as we start this video, and I'll come into the car. I'll have the steering wheel. Yeah, let's bring up the steering wheel so we can see how I'm approaching my lap. So obviously we're just coming to the last end of the circuit, and we'll start approaching another lap. So trying to keep a nice tight apex, shifting to traction control 4 on the exit. I'll bring up the hood as well so we can see. I know we've got this horrible thing on the side, but I can't do anything with that. So trying to get the car slowed down, not the best entrance, running a little bit of the curb, trying to avoid the push. That's how tough it was, this race, it really was. Braking at the 100-yard board, down to second gear, bit of blip of throttle into first gear, hug that inside curb. Wait, get on the power, don't run too wide, pick up a track penalty. Very tentative on the power, traction control 4, then back to TC8. And then we're flying down this long back straight. And we're just going to be focusing on the top speed that we're going to get down here. It's 16 Celsius on the night. We're probably hitting optimum conditions. And we're hitting 286 on the turning. You can see the car is struggling for grip through there. Down to second, tentative on the power, probably a track limits penalty there and another track limits penalty there. Try and get the car slowed down, very wide. A nice line into the corner though, good acceleration on the way out. Not the best line through here. Picking up that inside curb, braking, turn the car in. Very wide from the apex and accelerating off. Can't quite see the lap time, but that's going to be a 1:55.5 or something like that. 1:55.6. So braking at the cones, probably wiping all them cones out. A nice line in, a much better line in there. A little bit twitchy on the exit. Obviously we've not got a push to avoid on this lap. Braking at that 100-yard board or a tiny bit past it, down to second gear, down to first gear, hug the curb, get the car turned in, try not to touch too much of that curb, unsettles the car. Tentative on the power. Traction control 4 maybe. So obviously we're still TC8. We've got a car just up ahead of us, probably too far away to get any sort of tow from him. And we will have a little look inside this dashboard as well. There's a lot of detail going on in there to try and help us understand what's going on with the temperatures in the tyres and the tyre pressures. Are they optimal or not? So just a lift off at the 100-yard board. You can see the cars sliding around, front end grip struggling. Turning in, down to third, down to second gear. Still sliding around, not sure what he's doing on the apex. This is a blue flag driver, so he gets the blue flags. We're back on our way again. Looking for this curb to run out, go into the blue before we start braking. So braking on the brake pedal, down to second gear, pick up some inside curb, braking again. Still a little bit too far away from that inside curb, and we'll see when we cross the line again. Oh, we're coming in for a pit stop. We'll stay on board for this pit stop because I think it's worthwhile seeing how long I'm actually in the pit for here. So as I'm in the pit now, we've got Cozy Learner going past and a whole number of other drivers, avoiding this dip here in the middle. Get herself nicely lined up. We're just stopping for 1 litre of fuel. Hits a good marker there. Up on the jacks. 1, 2, 3. Down. Start the pedal. And away again. A nice clean stop. So we're away again. I think we're coming out here in 6th place. I don't remember overtaking anybody on the last lap. Just too far away. So we're not bother continuing with me through this next section, but just so you can see what my pit stop kind of looked like. So if we press pause here, and we're going to come on board with number 55 driver, who's also in the Ferrari 296, and we're going to watch one of Cozy Lerner's laps. So he's just pulled into the pit, and we're just going to watch Cozy Lerner's pit stop. We can divulge a little bit of information from his running traction control 5 and 2 on the ABS. So don't particularly think he hits his jacks very well. Still not up off the ground yet, so it's like, what's going on, what's going on? Still what's going on, and we're up on the jacks. Oh, we're back down again, so it probably wasn't too bad actually. But I think I did a little bit of a better stop. But you can see we've got brake balance 56.8 as well. He's also not running traction control 2. I have tried traction control 5, doesn't particularly work well for me. But I do prefer a higher traction control. But you can just see how different our lines are through some of these corners, and just where he's able to carry more speed. So braking just after, carries third gear through here, and then down into second gear. I don't know how he manages this. Down to first gear, looks like it turns in really nicely. Tentative on the power. On the power, obviously he gets a little bit of oversteer on corner exit, which is obviously down to TC5. And then he's accelerating away. Now remember, we hit 286 kilometers at the end of this straight. So after we've waited for the next few seconds, 28.2, 28.3, 28.4, 28.4. So we already know that he's definitely running more aerodynamics than myself. And he holds on to third gear all the way to the apex here before he drops to second gear and accelerates out. He takes a much lighter swing and he's braking on the turn in, whereas I'm braking more in a straight line and then turning in to get a late apex. I'm braking now, he's braking a little bit later, carries it much later into the corner. Much more hooked up on the apex of the corner. So we'll see a like for like lap as we come out here. Not sure we can get rid of these results. We have to have this horrible hood on the left hand side, I don't know why. It'd be great if we could just get rid of that. But so smooth through that section. Just looks like there's no issues through there whatsoever. Down to third, just looks really smooth. Really easy through there with second gear. This car's just going to get out of his way. And again, a little twitch on acceleration. And as long as you stay to the left hand side of those two metal markers, I don't think you pick up a track limits penalty. So again, using engine map 1 of 10. 20 litres on board. Again, much later on the turn in, but doesn't seem to struggle at all. No worries turning in. No dramas through here, looks like it's full of grip. Probably a track limit penalty. Turns in, but it's still suffering with a bit of understeer, I think. Doesn't seem to struggle slowing the car down too much. Much closer on the apex. And see what we're across the line. It's probably the last lap. A 1:54.4. So we're going to get another lap here. Take all those cones out possibly. Nice turn in. across the curbs, no struggle with acceleration, no struggle, just trying to get this back marker out of the way. Disappointing sometimes when you get that, you've got the leader coming up on you, he really should be out of the way. Again, a little bit of hesitation on acceleration, I guess. Just a little bit of a twitchy rear end on the car. A little bit disappointing we don't get to see if he's up on his lap difference. But again, maxing out at 284. And a much later turn in, but still manages to carry all that speed through. Just doesn't look like he's struggling for grip here at all. He's not sawing at the wheel. A little bit of a corrective oversteer. And a very different line to me turning in, a much tighter line. Probably slower on the exit, whether he carries more speed on the entrance, really not sure. Much later braking coming into here, but also much wider than myself. Still managing to pick up that inside curb, and again picks up the inside apex much better. It's still going to be flat out across the line. And unfortunately we don't see that last lap time. Oh, 1:54.7 then. But you see the best lap through the session at 1:53.3, a long way off my best. I don't think I set a 1:53. Maybe I set a 1:53.7 very early on, and that was me. But we'll have a little look over some of the footage. Maybe during the race, maybe I'll leave the footage for the race at the end. I don't think I recorded that footage the other night. I had a really good race at Watkins Glen where I put it on pole and then absolutely binned it midway through the race. But we're just going to go into this Paul Ricard session. I'll change it from nighttime to daytime. I've done a very similar setup, but I've just made some adjustments to the setup that I'm running, so we're just going to pretty much have a look at the setup that I'm running and see. I've still not been able to get into the 152s. It is possible because I've seen it. So on Xbox One Series X it is possible. So we're going to just come into this setup, and the daytime setup that I've done, still a 157, or we changed the track limit. Let's just leave it on the 32 Celsius. So let's come into that and we'll just change the tire temperatures. What am I doing? So let's load this 27 Celsius optimum. So we're running a little bit hotter. So I'm just going to take maybe 3 psi out of each tire. And on the night in question, I was running 1 on my brake ducts because the brake ducts do get fairly hot, but they also generate heat into the tyre, and obviously when you're being down the long back straight, the tyres get really cool at the end of the long straight. So all the temperature you've got in your brake discs transfers into the tyres, and we can try and keep the tyres nice and warm. So we quickly look over this setup then. Not sure whether running too much caster is actually causing me a little bit of understeer. I've seen on another setup someone was running 12 on the caster, but I can't see that making much difference. Personally, I would prefer to run a higher traction control. Obviously, Cozy Learning was running 5, but I prefer to run 8 and then swap to TC4 on the exit. I can put these back to tire set 1. Again, he was running a slightly lower brake balance, just 1 click, not really much in it. Tried to run slightly softer on the suspension. I don't know if we can get even softer than that, might help us a little bit more, but I just dropped them all around really. Subtle adjustments on the dampers. And then you can see here running 8 on the rear wing. Now during the session that I did online when I was hitting 287, I was running 4 on the aero. So in the race it would have been great on the back straight. If I came up across Cozy Learner, I'd have overtaken him on that back straight, and then he would have to have found a way past me on the other sections of the circuit. So they were like win-win situations. If we were head-to-head against each other, I might very well have been able to stick it out with him and keep up with him through some of the corners, but he definitely wouldn't have been overtaking me down that back straight if he was running 8 on the traction on the rear wing. I'd have definitely been overtaking him. So something to bear in mind, it could be a split between running this setup on your qualifying laps and running, let's just come back to the setup that I used during the race itself, just in case you wanted to see that one. So that was the one that I used. So you can see we're running 4 on the rear wing there, 1 on the brake ducts, and some subtle adjustments probably through the steering ratio. The brake balance is slightly different, the preload at the rear is slightly different, maybe slight differences in the bump stops as well, maybe subtle differences through there. So there's 2 setups there that I run a slightly lower downforce, which I could probably use in the race, but again I was only hitting a 154 throughout most of the race, but hopefully with this one much more downforce, yeah, this is the one, obviously running much more downforce. So let's just have a quick drive around the circuit and we'll see how the car performs. Better off without the pit button on. So braking at this set of cones on the right hand side, trying to hook up this inside curb, trying to get a sweep out here and just clip this inside curb here, heavy on the power. Down to this 100 yard board, braking, down to 3rd gear, down to 2nd gear, and then I personally go down to 1st gear, try and hug this inside curb to drag you round, blip of the accelerator and then turning in, trying to miss this curb a little bit, up to 2nd gear, tentative on the power, and then absolutely max power. I switch to traction control 4 on the exit, keeping it inside the white lines, and then back to TC8. I change at 260 kilometers, and then like before we should probably be at about 282 here. I'm just going to lift off at this 100 yard board, drop to 5th gear, just turn the nose in, obviously we ain't got tyre pressure, keeping to the right hand side of the bollards, down to 4th gear, down to 3rd gear, down to 2nd gear, and then on the power for the exit. Braking at the last cone, all on the brake pedal to get the car to turn in, using that curb on the exit. Braking at the different colouring on the curb, and then turning in, trying to get this apex, and then accelerating TC4, TC8, changing at 200, and then let's start building some temperature in these tyres. You see the front to the right hand side of the car, the temperature changing. So your front right tyre is still not up to temperature. We want 80 Celsius. through the tyre to get that tyre into its right window. So you can see all the tyre pressures on the left hand side. Really good information on the dashboard in the Ferrari. So we're still waiting for this front right tyre to get into an optimal window for track temperature. So a little drop down, turn in. Back on the power. See, I'm totally out of control. It just wasn't. It just looked so stuck to the circuit. Really do struggle to find the grip. Obviously on the limiter grip all the time. Don't want to touch that curb. As you can see, really unsettles the car. Still struggling to find that temperature in that front right tyre. Running wide again, just not got the turn in. As you can see, because we're running in a much hotter conditions, I've not quite got the tyres in the right window. We're getting into the 27s. So it'd be nice just to come into the pit and just drop those down a little bit further. So all these little things will definitely affect lap time. So even 27.5 on the PSI, 154.4. Keep seeing that front left right tyre. If I try and hang on to second, the acceleration off the corner is just not there. But I'm still don't know really the tyre pressures, whether we should be looking at 27 dead, 27 PSI. So I get all the way up to 282. Feels really nice through there, to be honest. No dramas. Here we're just on the edge of grip. Track limit penalty just for that tiny. Let's go for one more lap then with these tyre pressure is not particularly great. Really does feel like there's just a little bit too much understeer, and I don't know whether that's coming from, like I say, the caster being a little bit too high maybe. Still not the best lap at all. Let's get something done with them tyre pressures. So let's just drop that down to 24. I'm going to drop that to 25. A little bit too much at the front as well. So I might just see if we can bring that down a bit, whether it sorts out a little bit of that understeer. And I'm just going to see if we just drop that one click either way. And let's go out again. Feels like we're going from bad to worse. See if we can get a better second sector. So you see that front right tyre is just going to drop out of temperature as it hits 80. Just looking at that delta. Wondering when I'm going to find a 53. Well, I'll give up. That's an hour's video. I don't don't even know why we're going to watch that, because we never really reached what I wanted to achieve in the video. So let's return to the garage, quickly look over this setup. A disappointing setup for me, to be honest, a disappointing session. Not feeling like there's a huge amount of grips from the car at all. Really not sure where to go with the setup. Yeah, just a little bit disappointing. It feels like the front end grip is struggling, feels like the rear end grip is struggling, feels like just overall downforce in the car is lackluster. But yeah, I hope you enjoy that setup. If you give it a whirl, see what you think. If it's rubbish, please do leave a comment in the comment section, and if you manage to get on with it, I'll try and edit out all the outlaps so we can actually just thin this video down a bit. But the premise of the video really was to try and have a look at other drivers during your session, see what they're doing with their setup, see how they're attacking the laps, and fundamentally try and better your own lap. But yeah, thanks for watching. Ciao for now.